Culture Podcast. We have a special guest with us today, and she's not just a lawyer. She goes by the name Sue Ann Robison, and she's been featured on Fox News Channel, the Fox Business Channel, RT America, Newsmax, American Trends TV, and she's been recognized in Super Lawyers magazines for what, five years?
I think it's
6 years now.
Yeah.
And she's also on a TV show called Wrong Man.
Right.
So tell us about yourself.
I'm an attorney. I practice primarily in Broward, West Palm Beach, and Dade. Criminal defense, civil rights litigation, and then I have a small boutique practice of business and entertainment law. So I've been practicing since 2006 when I was 5 years old. No, I'm just kidding. But, the show on Stars, Wrong Man, me and my team, we investigate people that say their cases, they were wrongfully convicted. So that's why it's called Wrong Man. And we go through the case from top to bottom, go to the crime scene, visit with the defendants in prison, go back through all the witnesses, and try to figure out if it's the wrong person. Because I don't say wrong man anymore, because this season that we're taping right now, we have female defendants. So
it's not just men, it's everybody.
Right now it's wrong woman possibly. So
what made you get into law? Like, what inspired you into being in a field where it's like predominantly men?
Right. Actually, it's kind of weird because I started realizing, because I've been talking about that a lot. I think it was Claire Huxtable, to be honest. I did grow up like watching a lot of Cosby Show. And I remember Claire Huxtable was a lawyer, and she would just fly like Saturday morning. She was like waking up fully dressed and, making sure everybody's straight and then going to the office. I was like, I could do that. I could do that.
Since you brought up Bill Cosby,
Yeah.
I thought you can't go back that far to trial somebody. So explain to us that whole process to how he got charged. Something that happened 2 decades ago.
Okay. Well, in certain jurisdictions, which is where he ended up being charged for sexual assault, you can go back.
So they can go back and say.
Yeah, so it just depends. It depends where the incident took place. Yes.
So OJ can get retried.
No. Retried?
Yeah.
For the murder?
Yeah.
No.
So it's not.
Right. He's already.
I don't think Bill Cosby was
he wasn't ever tried.
Right. That was Bill
We just
Cosby's
talked about
case. Bill Cosby had sexual assault, like civil lawsuits that he had settled, resolved, and was actually paying some of the people off, to settle the cases. And then some of the settlements, once they were finished paying, some of those same victims came forward and wanted criminal charges filed.
So that's why OJ's bragging and stuff kind of.
What?
You went on like the interview and he was like talking about bragging about it kind of about.
Did he commit sexual assault or the homicide?
Yeah.
Well, the rule is double jeopardy, not the kind R. Kelly was talking about, because that made no sense what he was saying. But in terms of OJ's case, he's already been tried for the murder, so he can't be tried again criminally for it. It was a civil lawsuit. They got a judgment against him, Nicole's family, and so he owes them a ton of money. But he can't be tried in criminal court again for that same offense.
So for R. Kelly, they say he has people against their will. So as a parent or as somebody who cares about those people, do you have any rights to try to if they want to say they're not being captured against their will?
Right.
So what kind of law, is he breaking the law?
No. Well, the people are over 18. So they have their own rights to make their own decisions and do what they want to do. If they were under 18, then obviously there would be an issue with them being minors and things like that. So right now, the current
state have different laws, like was it Chicago where they say 17 you're pretty much grown, something like that.
Right. In terms of the age of majority, every jurisdiction can be somewhat different. I think overall it's about 17, 18. So the issue is there a way to tie him to a minor that's going to come forward and testify, in this decade about possible allegations against him.
And since well, I heard you say you have kids,
Mhm.
your mother, so let's take the law side out of this.
Right.
How do you feel about the whole situation?
Well, I think the issue with the case is that there's a lot of people that have to be involved in order for someone of his level and his stature to perpetuate the type of allegations that are made against him. Like, someone has to book these tickets for these minors. Somebody has to be getting hotel rooms for them. Somebody has to be bringing them food. Like, someone knows that they're there.
It's like what's the word?
Like human trafficking.
Yeah, kind of, but it's like the operation actually.
Right. So, there's a lot of adults that are facilitating the allegations. And then mainly, I feel like there's a lot to be said about the parents, in the sense that,
We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
I don't want to blame parents. Well, I don't know. I kind of blame parents.
yeah, it's accountability. It's not necessarily blame, but after that story came out with Aaliyah and all that stuff about what was going on with her, and then you still brought your young child there, I would just be like, let's find another artist for you to work with, another producer, another camp, because this camp has issues with minors. I wouldn't still want to bring my child over there.
They say he can't read too, so clearly he wasn't looking nothing or doing nothing for himself. Somebody had to do it for him. That was great to read.
Right.
And then he's talking about he went to the bank just like 2 months ago for the first time. He wasn't even touching his own money.
Right.
And then he finds out that somebody was robbing him and stuff. Like, this whole situation is crazy.
Yeah. It happens a lot in the entertainment industry, in the sense that people who are, the cash cow, to use that term, they're surrounded by an army of people that make everything work. Whatever they have to do, they got to wake up, they need to brush their teeth. Like, think about Coming to America, like how Eddie Murphy's character, there was like somebody to bathe him and somebody to hand him his food, and people like walking around with roses. Like, not to that extent, but I mean, in their day-to-day personal lives, they have people that help them with every single thing, because the idea is their main job is to perform as an artist, to make music if they're a musician, and that's it. So every other aspect of their lives is taken care of by other people.
And he got to get paid somehow.
Yeah, and a lot of those people probably were doing those things based on job security, which you have that question of, do I keep doing this job to feed my family or to maintain whatever I'm trying to maintain, or do I report this person? So, these people made their decision at the time that,
So you don't think it's wrong for them to be coming out now, but they've already made the decision?
Oh, yeah. I think that, for employees or anybody who facilitated, sexual assault by R. Kelly to come out now, I think it's their own guilt that would make them, have something to say at this point, because they know that they were part of the issue.
So I know there was a documentary with Michael Jackson.
I haven't seen that yet. You seen it?
Well, I haven't seen it either, but I know there was a lot of talk about it, and then the family wants to sue for defamation. So how does that work? And what are your rights as far as like your likeness, and how can somebody use it to make money? And then do you have any rights to say stop? Does his estate have any rights to tell the networks that they can't use Michael Jackson's likeness?
Well, Michael Jackson is a public figure, is. So his likeness is in the public sphere, so it can be used, but they can't obviously make up stories, defame him, or lie, basically. And so that's what the family is alleging, is that the documentary, or whatever he's calling it, is based on incorrect information, and it's based on people that have in the past said, no, nothing happened. Now they're coming back and saying something did happen. So, that's kind of the issue. If you're a public figure, then, your image is everywhere. Your interviews are everywhere, just like you can go online and get interviews of any public figure. So, there's a lot of issues. There's more issues surrounding his music and the ability to use his music than there is about his actual just photos and things like that.
What do you mean the ability to use music?
Well, to use like Michael Jackson's music or certain types of music, you have to buy a license.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and things like that. You can't just use it.
Use it.
Yeah.
So, how was your college experience, and where did you go to school?
I went to Florida A&M University, and my college experience was good. I mean, I went to, HBCU, which was, great for me in the sense that I got to meet people from all over the country that were, like-minded, similar, scholarly, and also, just moving towards the same goal. The good thing about FAM is, well, there's several good things, but the best thing I thought is that your teachers are invested in your success. And so, they take the extra step to make sure that you're good. So if you're having a problem or you're having an issue with a class, it's not like it's you by yourself. You can really go to your professors and say, hey, I'm having an issue, or I can't get the book right now. It's a community together trying to help you get your degree.
How big were your classes?
I went to the School of Business and Industry, so our classes were pretty small because we were all at that time being trained primarily to work at Fortune 500 companies. So we had small pods, almost like conference room style classes, because we were learning, to be able to go straight to corporate America from school. So a lot of our classes were kind of almost like meeting settings. But I would say general classes could be up to 100 or 200 people. And then in the School of Business, we had these seminars once a week where it was the entire school in one auditorium, just going over different things. You had to have there was different companies within the school, so we all had a job within the school to teach you how to work, in a company and be, president, treasurer, secretary, different
Hands-on training.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what made you decide to go to law school?
Well, I always intended in my mind to go to business school and then go to law school, because my idea at that time was that I was going to be a business lawyer only. So I think over time and after actually being in law school and understanding different things, that's when I realized, an attorney really is a social engineer in a lot of ways, because we work on legislation, obviously laws, and then with civil rights litigation, you are engineering how people are treated, in the sense that when there's a civil rights lawsuit and it's successful, then there's a precedent for how people are going to be treated in that setting.
Okay. And the reason why I asked you that question earlier about both sides of your classrooms is because the study shows that kids learn better in a smaller setting instead of a big setting, because kids don't get the attention, or they don't pay attention because they're not getting that attention.
Right. No, I absolutely agree with you. I think the dean of the School of Business and Industry, she's passed away since then, but Dean Sybil Mobley, she was a visionary in terms of the school, the curriculum, what her vision was for each of the students. And so she really made the program what it was and made sure that we were getting hands-on training in terms of being involved in business at the actual school. And then our class sizes definitely, played a big role in it.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about, what are your thoughts about Laura Ingraham?
Who's that?
The lady on Fox?
Uh-huh.
When she was talking about Nipsey Hussle?
Oh, listen. To keep it 100, I just feel like I believe in, our constitutional rights to kind of say what we want to say. But I feel like I was raised, if I don't have anything nice to say,
Don't say that at all.
Especially when you have a platform like that.
right.
You probably cater to the people that want to hear that, but still, it's harmful.
And then it's the other issue is a lot of times in an environment, in a generation at a time that's driven by kind of controversy, people want that soundbite.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, well, let me just say anything to kind of
Use get people to pay attention.
right. And Laura Ingraham, when I was like, who is that? She, her show and her angle, because that's the name of her show, is what it is. That's what she's
Going after.
Yeah. So, to me, when someone passes away, I feel like as a society, we try to hold the person up and let them rest in peace. That's what we try to do. Even if the person wasn't so great, you talk about their positive attributes and then you move on. So for her to feel like she need to rehash it, and really to keep it really, it's not her culture. It's not her. It has nothing to do with her. So it's kind of like nobody was really looking for her to say anything. So to me, it just shows, Nipsey's reach now in posthumously. If Laura Ingraham feels like she needs to weigh in on it, yeah, it just shows you like how impactful his death has been on people like deciding, hey, I'm gonna make these moves. I'm gonna, try to buy back the block. I'm gonna invest more in my community, etc. It shows you what an impact his death has had when it's reaching out the way to Laura Ingraham, who probably doesn't know his music, not a hip hop fan, never been to Crenshaw, things like that.
So, and we were talking about earlier, so like, I know you went to school, you went to grad school and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are going into debt, like student loan debt.
Right.
And it's almost an epidemic, and I see it all the time.
Yeah.
People are having trouble buying homes, credit problems, because they're deferring on the student loan. So, what would you tell somebody 18 coming out of college about student loans? Because they'll give you a student loan, but they won't give you a business loan for
right.
$100,000, $200,000.
Right.
So what would you tell an 18-year-old?
So, I just did a story on my own show actually about how there's this population of college students that are hungry, like literally don't have food. So they're like sleeping instead of going to class because they're hungry. So I think there's an issue with, the price of school, how much it's costing to get this education that people need in order to, be in certain fields. But definitely when I go to schools, I tell kids to focus on what their strengths are. So there's some kids that don't need to go to college or they're not geared for that level of education. They should go to a trade school. People are like, oh my God, like you're being so insulting. What do you mean go to a trade school? I'm like, there's people that are artisans, carpenters. They make more money than people that go to college and do other careers. So I think our society as a whole has to kind of go back to putting respect on other post-high school paths. I think the issue is everybody just focuses on gotta get to college, gotta get that college experience, as opposed to what is actually going to set me up better economically. And then really what I would say to an 18-year-old is to learn about money, learn things about finance, understand what you're doing. Because a lot of times they just put the papers in front of you. They don't know anything about interest rate. They're not thinking about how much per semester they actually need. A lot of people look at it like, oh, I'll get more money than I need and I'll use the money to get a car. A lot of times with minority families, people might use the money for something that the family needs even. You know what I mean? If you have extra money, it's like, okay, well, we need this money to do something that we need to do in the house or some critical family emergency. People are not looking at it for what it is, which is you are setting yourself up with a huge set of debt. And if you don't have a pathway to kind of carve back at it going forward, then it's probably not a good idea. Like, you don't need to take more than what you need. I think now, when I was in undergrad, there was this big thing with credit cards. They were getting everybody to get a credit card, and everybody was going to the mall or going to Walmart or whatever. And then when it was time to graduate, a lot of people had all these crazy credit card debts, and then were moving into either graduate school or their adult life with lawsuits and stuff from credit cards that they got in undergrad, which they didn't even understand it. They're like, oh, if you sign up for this, you get a hat or whatever silly stuff. People, yeah, like, or CDs. Yeah, I mean, so to me, it starts at home in terms of teaching your kids from a young age about finance and actually understanding. I think in our community, because there's some people have economic insecurity, you don't want to talk about that with your kids.
or the parents don't know themselves. Most people come from a different country. They come here for the kids that have a better life.
Right.
They don't know themselves. So they've been brainwashed to think college.
School.
Which runs the price up.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just throw them in college, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Be a doctor or a lawyer.
Yes.
And then run up the bills, take a whole bunch of loans all you want. You'll be able to pay when you become it.
Right. When you have all this money that
Yeah.
you're supposed to get. And I think people, if the more you educate yourself on finance, you can make better decisions when it's time for you to do financial aid and different things. And you can get, certain types of business loans, certain types of grants. You could do things to get yourself started before you have to go into the foray of business loan. Because the idea is, the people that are making these decisions are looking at your track record. So if the first time you're coming up with your business is when you're already 18, then you're at a disadvantage. So that's why I say it's at home and it has to start before you're 18. Like you have to be, involved, actively talking to your parents about finances, financing, what's going on in your actual household in terms of money, so that you have an understanding of it. So when people are like, oh yeah, you just get this $10,000, you just pay 2% interest. You can pay it whenever. You got to understand that it's compounding interest over time, and that you're getting $10,000 now, but you're going to pay $80,000 for this 10 grand. Then you can make a more reasonable decision on whether or not you want to do it. But I never think, education is a bad idea. I think what I see is that in the future, if the prices keep going the way they are, people are definitely going to be seeking alternatives.
I already think the alternative is here, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like most people just go to YouTube.
Right.
Somebody's already watching or talking about what they're trying to learn.
Yeah.
Somebody went through their experience, the same thing they did, and they're trying to tell you not to do it. And I also feel like if the school systems don't change, then
The school systems have to change
Yeah.
first. 'Cause they have to start implementing trades
Mhm.
in the schools, like firefighter class maybe.
I mean they started the firefighters thing in
Yeah,
high school,
but-
but yeah, that's what you're saying.
Other
more of
trades.
those.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole book of vocational things aside from doctor, lawyer, the main things that are shown. So it's like a lot of times, even in entertainment, people always think, oh, I want to be an actor. But there's production, there's writers, there's cameramen, there's lighting. All these people, they're making a lot of money, but we're not exposed to that. So then when it's time to choose something, we're like, okay, well, this is what I see. So I want to be an actor and actress. When there's so many layers involved in entertainment that you could be involved in and make a good living, but we're only exposed to certain things. So I think it has to do with exposure and also educating earlier on financial issues.
That's why I like what Kevin Hart's doing.
Mhm.
He's about to go to schools, to the young kids, and pretty much talk about financial to the kids so they
Okay.
can start early, because he didn't have the opportunity and he wants
Most
to
of
give
us
back.
really had opportunities to learn that
Yes.
Right.
from your parents who
Yeah.
probably didn't have too much credit or whatever the case.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of kids coming out of college don't know credit either. So, it's just a whole finance. It's not even about having. It's not even about having higher education. It's something you need, whether
Right.
everybody needs to have
Yeah.
a good amount of finance education.
Yeah, and I think too, talking about it as finance too can be like, not scary, but make people feel like, ooh, I don't want to know about finance. But it's not even, you don't even have to use that word. It's your personal money. Like how to, it's just like your mental health, your physical health. You have to maintain your financial health, because that's your currency. That's what you're using to live. So I think people don't, the way that we look at it needs to change too. People really, I think there's ample opportunities, there's ample money, there's ample everything, but it's how your perspective. So, there's households that raise their kids in terms of, money doesn't grow on trees, things like that. And there's other households that are like, it's out there. You just have to figure out how to go get it. If there's a tree with money on it for you, you just need to figure out how to go get it. So I think the more that we incorporate the second mind frame into our culture, the more creative kids can be. And, a lot of times, in minority or urban environments, the kids are dealing with so much just to get through the day that they don't have that space to just sit and be like, oh, you know what, I could be.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
Trying to deal with it.
Right. It's like, I haven't had a meal. So that's what they're focused on. So it's not, oh, let me think about what I can contribute to the world or what I can, write or think of a movie or something like that. They're focused on, their physical security. So I think that's what Nipsey really was about. He was like, let's get everybody straight on the basics so that people have more opportunity to work on STEM and different inventions and things like that. Because that's, if you look back historically, we always learn Black History Month, all these inventions that African Americans did. And it's like, what was so different in that time that people had time to like come up with all this cool stuff and do all these things that they didn't get recognition for? It's like there was a different economics in the Black community because they were all within themselves. They weren't allowed to go to Walgreens or wherever. They had to go to Bobo's, pharmacy or wherever. So there was a different economic situation. So people had, I don't want to say freedom, but they were able to put their mind on different things. They weren't worrying about, am I going to get shot? Am I going to be involved in a drive-by? They were able to focus on different things. So, I think it really does have to do with, education primarily, but education on more fundamental things.
So, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. What are some red flags when you're talking to a man?
Talking to a man?
Yeah. Like somebody you just like started talking to.
Oh, like dating?
Yeah, dating.
Oh, okay. Red flags.
Like, what's a big red flag?
For me, I think if they're in a rush. Like a rush in terms of,
getting with you, so like they want to get married like next week.
Yeah, like, I know you for a week. Let's get married. Let's do it.
Or maybe saying I love you too fast.
Right. I think that's a red flag.
Some people think that you can just like love at first sight.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think you can express that you feel strongly for the person or even express love for the person while you're getting to know them. But I think definitely that's a red flag. Another red flag that I notice now is like really in this generation is the phone boo. Like a person you never see in person, but they're on your phone, like in your thread, like, good morning, oh my God, how are you?
Oh, if you've never seen them, but they always text.
Right, or you met one time, but then they're like...
Oh, because they feel a connect, they want to...
There's like they're like on the phone all the time, like, and then create like a false connection, like with names, or maybe they're like, oh hey baby, this whatever. It's like, we met one time, you got my phone number, how you get to miss me, how you get to call me baby, like what, that's a red flag to me.
That's how you get catfish.
Right, like if I can't see you in person or you can't actually make, let's meet for coffee or whatever, then that's a red flag. I'm like, you have another relationship, you married, something is going on, why you're just trying to live in my phone. So those are 2 red flags.
Do you need like a lawyer kind of spouse, or do you need like a doctor, or do you do like the guy in public?
Do you mean me personally?
Yeah, people regular guy.
Yeah, I think that the most important thing to me is our chemistry and our interaction. I think that economics is important, but I also think that if you're with the right person, you can build your empire that you want with that person. So some people are like, hey, I want to get with someone because I'm trying to be on Kanye and Kim, I'm trying to be on Jay-Z and Beyonce. And some people are like, I want to be on, we just have a nice house and a simple life, and that's fine with me. So I think you have to date someone that's similar. There could be a doctor that's just trying to be simple, and maybe you're trying to wild out and be like in Bali and doing all kind of crazy stuff, and they're just trying to chill. Or maybe there's someone who works at Publix, but they're like, yeah, but I have this side business and I'm doing all this stuff and I'm trying to get loans because I'm going to open a record label, or I'm going to do, whatever. I'm doing day trading, etc. So maybe that person, is more for you, even though on the outside or on paper, it's like, oh, this person just works at Publix. So I think that's why the rushing always is a red flag for me, because I want to get to know the person, like who they really are, what they're about, and most importantly, what their morals and values are in terms of their family. Really tells you, like, if you and the person are going to get along. Because you and the person can have the best physical chemistry, and you were raised a certain type of way. Maybe their parents, and it's nothing bad, maybe their parents are drug dealers, or
like culture conflict.
Yeah, it's a culture conflict. So, if you stay with this person, you have kids, there's always going to be an issue, because they're going to be like, oh, we can just do this. And you're like, no, that's not how I was raised. Yeah. I prefer this. But you might be great physically, but actually when you get down to like the morals and values and how you see yourself in the future, it's different. So, you know, a lot of times there's memes that make fun of girls that like talk too much or send guys paragraphs and ask them all these questions and things like that. Right. But it's like sometimes women are trying to see where your mind is at. I don't mean like people that are like, oh, do you miss me or whatever. Or
Yeah, but guys, like, come on, like, be realistic. You get a long paragraph. We're gonna skim through that.
Right.
We're not gonna word by word.
Yes, no. I mean, it's tough. I don't really send out paragraphs. I've never been like a paragraph.
If you don't do that for this call,
yeah, I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call and I'm gonna be like, where you at? Let's meet up because I need to tell you something. You know, so even
you gotta break that up in like days for me.
Even which was funny because a lot of people didn't go into it, obviously, because it was a sensitive time for Lauren London and Nipsey passing away. But remember, her text was her eulogy. Yeah. Remember that? Yeah. That was crazy. That was a long ass text to be like, oh boo, and this and that, okay, and whatever. Okay. No, it's absolutely okay.
But not the mad one.
Okay, so you're doing with a paragraph text and she's like, oh my god, your muscles are so big and this that. But if she's like, I can't believe you did it, you like it, and I think now you guys have such a pressure. There's such a pressure in dating with social media because if you don't like, I have things to do. I'm just gonna be real. So whoever I date has to be just as busy or understand that I'm busy and that he's busy too. And we're just gonna have to commit to when our time is together. That's our time. We're not doing other stuff. But you know, I have a lot of mentees and friends and younger cousins and stuff. They're like, oh, he's liking this person's pictures on Instagram. I told him not to like this girl's pictures. Why is he putting heart eyes, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you have too much time. You need to find something else to do. Sometimes it is a problem if he's putting heart eyes and then he's sliding in DMs and then he's meeting up with the girl. But you have to, like, know the person that you're with enough to be like, okay, whatever. He's just scrolling through and putting heart eyes because he's bored. And whatever, it doesn't mean anything. And know if the person is trying to get the person's attention to take it to another level. Because there's a difference. You know, there's definitely a difference between a guy who goes under Rihanna. Like, I go under Rihanna's thing and I'm putting hearts and all other things. I'm spamming Rihanna. Like, but there's people that are doing that. And then there's people that are like, oh, I'm trying to get her attention so that I could actually talk to her.
If you want to do it, do you need him to post you on his social media for it to be official? Is that a thing?
Yes, it is a thing.
Oh my
but
God.
It's not. I'm such a bad example because to me, I feel like with your personal relationship, you know, unless you are Jay-Z and Beyonce, or part of your relationship has to do with public relations, I feel like your Instagram page has nothing to do with your relationship. Like if it's for marketing and you guys have a business together, or you guys are doing a travel page and you want to show people that you're traveling together. It's something that you're just doing for fun. Yeah. So
But it's almost like a part of like the marriage certificate kind of.
Right. It's like, I'm official because I'm on the Instagram. I feel like if the person actively avoids in real life being around you, that's a problem. Because there's plenty of people that will post girls on their social media and don't take them around their friends, don't take them around their family. I think that's more of a red flag. Like you're dating somebody for a year, you never met none of their friends, none of their family, but they post you on social media. Yeah, it's like people need to get out of that electronic life and live life in real life.
Do you feel like dating have changed for the worse compared to like back then to now?
Right, back then. No, I think dating is always evolving. Human interaction is always evolving. I think right now, because you have text and you have Instagram and stuff, people have lost a lot of social skills in terms of how to interact with each other in real life. So, you know, there's always been people that were socially awkward, but now they kind of get a new life because they can be on Tinder or Instagram and just send somebody an emoji or just swipe and not have to really,
not really have to get on the phone.
Not really have to talk and interact. So there's always those people that were out in the dating world. But now there's people that are trained like that because they don't have to interact because they can just swipe or just send an emoji or just like somebody's pic to get attention, as opposed to a time when you had to go to the club, You had to dress nice. You had to smell nice. You had to go and be like, hey, what's up? What's your sign? Can I buy you a drink? You had to like go through some social steps. So I think that art is kind of lost or dying because now it's looked at as, oh, you're being thirsty. You're being too thirsty.
Well, that's kind of the female's fault.
Yeah,
if the female's socially awkward, then she's like 0%. You're not gonna come up to her and try to get it. Especially if she's with her friends, because then she's gonna be like, she only got a boyfriend.
Yeah, but what really makes a woman thirsty though?
A woman thirsty? Yeah. Oh, I was talking about guys. I was talking about women saying, the younger generation saying, if a guy is like actively pursuing you, that means that he's thirsty. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, what?
Girls will open, like their character. Mm-hmm. They would like, they're okay with it. But if a girl's like antisocial, you have to get out of it. It's kind of weird.
Okay.
You gotta go with the flow. You have to know the girl, I guess you could say. Some girls will be antisocial, like you said, and one girl will be like really active. So
yeah.
They want you to pursue her with some flowers and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, some girls don't care about flowers.
So how does a man pursue you? Like, does it have to be like super like flowers?
Mm-hmm.
How do you catch your attention?
Chocolates? I think that my attention is usually caught by understanding in terms of my schedule, and then your time management skills, which sounds super corny and like but it's like,
because if you're at the gym or something like that, you really don't want to talk. Is that
no, it's just like if the guy is like, I go to the gym 5 days a week at 2:00 and 2:00 is the only time I'm available for the next week, then you got to be like, you know what? I'm going to go at 5 so I can see Suanne at 2.
Compromising.
Yeah. Like, your ability to do that makes me feel like, okay, you're interested in me because you're willing to kind of shift around your schedule and make it work so that we can see each other. But time for sure. I mean, flowers and gifts and all that stuff is super nice. Everybody loves that. But I think time is the most important thing because that's the only way you're going to get to know the person.
So you feel like you have to start as friends first, or?
I guess friends in the sense that you mean like not having a physical relationship.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the situation, but I definitely think you have to have a friendship with the person and be able to openly communicate. A lot of times people associate friendships with being able to speak openly, say how you really feel, and then relationship time is when you're like, do I look fat?
So you should be able to be having an open relationship while you're in a relationship, right? Like,
yeah, you still need to have that same level of communication when you're in a relationship. Yeah. Not like, oh, now we're dating. Okay,
now
so
you want to be quiet. You want her to feel like her history.
Right. Or it's like, oh, well, I was with my guy friend, but I'm not going to say that now because we're together. So now, he's going to start tripping because we're together. So I can't say where I really was. So I'm just not going to say anything, or I'm going to make up a lie. That's when it starts to kind of spiral into negativity.
Do you watch How to Get Away with Murder?
I did watch it the first season when it first came out, but then it started getting on my nerves because I'm actually a lawyer. So I was like, no,
it's not nothing like that.
I was like, yeah, you can't tell your whole class your attorney-client privilege, so you can't tell your whole class what's going on with your client.
Sure.
Just things like that was driving me crazy. But I love the show because I love the actress and I love the idea behind that genre. But it just started getting on my nerves because it was too fake. Yeah, it was too much stuff that I was like, guys, can't do that. Can't do that. So
what
then,
about Scandal? She's a lawyer, right?
Yeah, Scandal was great. Yeah, I love that show.
PR, right?
She's a lawyer, but she's a fixer, which is generally, what lawyers do. You fix people's problems. But she was like fixing people's issues that were entwined with legal issues.
Okay.
So I love Scandal. I watch all the seasons. It's a great show. And it's just about representation in media because they never had a character, black female character, that was so complex. Like you had Maxine Shaw, you had Claire Huxtable, they were lawyers. It was very, 1 or 2 dimensional. But with her, you really got into her personality, who she was, that she went to this private school, who her dad, like how you got to like really see a whole character and be like, okay, I could see myself in that. And I wouldn't really do that. But it's about representation. That's why now everybody's like, oh my gosh, Miss USA, Miss Teen USA, Miss America, they're all African American. When I was a kid watching pageants and even having participated, there was always this underlying thing when I was watching it with my mom, like, oh, Miss New York is really pretty. That's, she's black. But she's not going to win.
Yeah.
That they're going to pick a blonde one or they're going to, pick a white person. So, for all three of them to be black, you're like, it's changing. I don't have to have that conversation with my daughters. Like, oh, the black girl is really nice. She did really well. She killed it, but they're probably going to. Yeah, I don't have to have that conversation.
It's like Obama was very impactful and Black Panther was very impactful. Now all the younger kids get to see all that. Now they see that there's no stars they can't read pretty much.
Right. You don't have that mental limitation, which a lot of times stops you from even thinking. It's not like, people say, oh, you can be anything you want, you can be president and things like that. It's not about actually the person pursuing the presidency. It's about the idea that you're not limited. You don't have a limitation. You can do whatever you focus on and put your mind to.
So what kind of entertainment law do you do? Like, do you do music, sports?
Music and some sports stuff. So the sports stuff I do now mostly has to do with contracts and things like that. And it's the same thing with entertainment. I mean, what happens is a lot of times if you represent people in other spheres of their life, like maybe their business affairs or something like that, then it will, and they are in entertainment or they are in sports, then they will call, the same lawyer to assist them with something else.
Because I forget what her name is, but there's a African-American woman sports agent, and she was able to get like a top 5 draft.
Right. I do follow her on Instagram.
Yeah, I was like, that was super dope. And she had an interview and she was telling us the process. It's almost similar like yours, but it was like super dope that she was able to get into that and have success.
Yeah, and she's practicing law, doing other types of work as well, and then she has a sports agent certification. So.
Any more questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, so where can everybody find you, and if they have any issues, where can they find you to fix those problems?
Okay, definitely you can find me on social media at Not Just a Lawyer on all social media platforms. My office is right in Fort Lauderdale. You can find me on SueAnnRobinson.com or at RobinsonCaddyLaw.com.
Okay, one more question.
Yes.
All right, so is it disrespectful, because you say you have kids, is it disrespectful for the man to ask the woman for a DNA test?
What?
The man to ask, like the person you date, right?
Okay.
He's like, I love you, babe, but
I want a DNA test.
Okay.
Is that disrespectful? From your point of view?
It depends on the person's situation. Like if you're in an open relationship, then you're like, well, I know what I'm doing, so I understand why this person's asking. But I think that, if it's not a marriage setting and it's just like someone you're dating, but that gets into the issue that a lot of times people are having physical relationships before they're in relationships. So it's like, oh, we're sleeping together, we're seeing each other, but we're not exclusive. So then if the person gets pregnant, you're like, well, I know that you see other people, so that's why I'm asking for a DNA test. And I don't think it's disrespectful. I think it's how you do it. It's always going to be how you do it. If you do it in a way like, girl, I know you whatever, so you're pregnant, but you need to take a DNA test, then obviously that's going to be disrespectful. If you're like, hey, I know we're not in an exclusive relationship, so I don't be with you all the time, and I don't ask you these questions because that's the nature of our relationship. So I just want to make sure, are you comfortable with that? Because we know the nature of our relationship. I think there's a way, and it goes to social issues and being socially awkward. Like if you're used to doing DMs and emojis, you can't have an adult conversation like that. If you talking to this girl that you sleeping with and all you guys do is emojis and nudes and whatever, when you gotta have a real conversation like, hey, I know we're not exclusive, so this is why I'm asking for this. I'm not saying you're a bad person or whatever. I know we don't have that relationship, so that's why I'm asking. You have to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But but if all you do is talk via emoji and send nudes to each other, then you can't even communicate on that level.
Yeah, but most people that have kids are not adults or by 18, 21 is an adult age.
Right.
Get out of high school and you have kids and you're used to that emoji.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They got to work on it. Yeah, you definitely got to work on their ability to communicate in real life.
Yeah.
Because that's all disrespect is people hurt other people's feelings. So it's like, if you can manage your language to not hurt somebody's feelings, then you're good to go.
Okay, I have 2 homeboys. I don't want to put the names out. But one is because there's somebody that he used to mess with, and now she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
But he did a DNA test, and there was somebody else that it was an on and off relationship.
Okay.
And then they get back together, and then a couple months later, she's pregnant.
Right.
So I don't feel like that's kind of disrespectful.
No, I think they just should be able to have that conversation. Like, hey, we're on and off. I'm not saying anything bad about you, but it's possible if when we weren't together, you were talking to somebody else. I'm not accusing you. You don't have to tell me, but can we do this? And then if you come to me like that, then it's not a look at my homegirls. We're good. You know, it's not that type of situation. But if you're like, yo,
That's how you come
accusatory,
off,
yeah, because the first thing the person thinks when you say that is, oh, you trying to call me up. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you trying to say I sleep with a bunch of people. It's like, even if they do, nobody wants to be called that. You know what I mean? So it's just how you do it. Even if you're like, hey, listen, I know you're totally in control of yourself and you do your own thing. And I respect that. And that's part of why I love you. So because of that, you know what I mean? Because I know you're free and I don't try to hold you down and tell you what to do and who to be with. That's why I'm asking for the steps. It's how you say it, you know, and how you approach a situation.
Sound like we're having a red table talk right
We appreciate having you. This was amazing.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you.